All right, so today we're going to dive deep into the life of Shaka Zulu.
Oh, yeah.
You probably know him as like this legendary warrior king,
Right.
but
Of course.
we're going way beyond just battles and stuff today. Like
Okay.
we're really going behind the scenes here.
Sounds good.
We've got this documentary plan, and we're going to kind of use it to see what made him tick
Makes sense.
and how he built this whole empire,
Yeah.
and if his legacy is more than just all the conquering stuff.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Like, you always hear about how brutal he was,
Mm-hmm.
but he also, like, unified a whole nation,
Right.
right? And brought this, like, fragile peace to a place that was just completely consumed by conflict.
Totally. Yeah.
It's a real paradox, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
It's what makes his story so interesting.
Absolutely. So the documentary starts with Shaka's early life.
Okay.
He was born into the Zulu clan,
Right.
but he wasn't actually in line to be leader or anything.
Interesting.
It wasn't just like, oh, here's the throne, you're the king.
Gotcha.
Southern Africa back then was crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just this whole mix of different clans,
Mm.
always fighting over power and territory.
Makes sense.
So, like, how does that affect Shaka growing up?
You got to imagine, like,
Yeah.
growing up where your survival literally depended on your strength and who you allied with.
It's true.
And Shaka, he had to prove himself.
For sure.
And the training he got under Dingiswayo,
Oh, yeah, Digiswaya.
this powerful chieftain,
Right.
that was key.
Totally.
It wasn't just like, oh, here's how you fight.
Right.
It was like leadership 101 with like a master strategist, you know,
Yeah.
like a total crash course.
And that's where things get tricky.
Okay.
Shaka's rise to power.
Yeah.
It wasn't slow or simple at all.
Gotcha.
He was ruthless and ambitious,
Uh-huh.
and he quickly outmaneuvered all his rivals.
Makes sense.
The documentary doesn't like shy away from that at all,
No.
but they try to put his actions in the context of the time because it was just brutal tribal warfare everywhere.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Was he just a product of his time? Or was there something deeper driving him?
Right.
The documentary really seems to be struggling with that question.
Yeah.
Like trying to find the man behind all the legends and myths.
Yeah, like who was he really?
Exactly.
Well, one thing you can't ignore is his military genius,
Oh, no, absolutely.
like his buffalo horns formation.
Right.
That totally changed warfare in Southern Africa.
Yeah, how does that work again?
So picture it like
Why?
the center of the formation is like the chest of a buffalo.
Strong.
It holds firm.
Okay.
Then you have the strongest warriors on the sides,
Yeah,
like horns.
gotcha.
And then there's a reserve force
Interesting.
called the loins
Oh, wow.
that just waits to strike.
That's a pretty brilliant tactic.
Oh, yeah, it was revolutionary.
Especially compared to how everyone else was fighting.
Totally.
They were just way less organized.
Yeah.
The buffalo horns let them coordinate attacks. Yeah.
Surround the enemy. Just overwhelm him with force.
Right.
It's no wonder he won so many battles.
No wonder at all. But it wasn't just brute force.
Right?
Shaka was also a master strategist.
Yeah.
He knew that real power came from uniting all those clans.
That's smart.
He saw how all the infighting was making them weak,
Yeah.
and he had this vision of a unified Zulu kingdom.
That vision of unity is what makes him so complex.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he used brutality
Right.
to get there,
Mm-hmm.
but he also brought a level of peace and stability they'd never had.
It's true.
That was-
It's almost like he was playing this dangerous game,
Yeah.
using violence to create peace.
Interesting.
But was it worth it?
Yeah, was it a gamble that paid off?
Right.
That seems to be like a core question for this documentary.
Yeah, for sure.
The good one.
A really good one.
I'm curious to see what they say.
Me too.
It'll be interesting to hear their take.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we've talked about Shaka, the warrior, you know,
Right.
the unifier. Yeah.
But like, there's this other side of him
Oh, yeah.
that I just find really interesting.
What's that?
The man behind all of it.
You know? Oh, yeah.
Like, what made him tick?
Yeah.
What did he believe in?
Right.
What were his values like?
Well, that's where this documentary gets really good.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk to like cultural historians
Cool.
and even some descendants of the Zulu royal family, like
Wow.
getting those personal perspectives, you know,
Yeah.
could totally change how we see him.
Totally. And like his motivations and stuff.
Yeah, his fears, like,
Yeah.
what shaped his worldview.
I'm really curious about their take on his leadership style.
Yeah, me too.
He demanded total loyalty,
Yeah,
but he also inspired so much unity
exactly.
and strength in his people.
Like, was that real?
Yeah.
Or was it just to control everyone?
Right. Like, was it genuine?
It's a great question.
It really is. And we have to remember, right?
Yeah.
that a lot of what we know about him
Mm-hmm.
comes from stuff written after he died.
Oh, totally.
And those people had their own reasons for writing, you know?
Right. They had their own agendas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it seems like
Yeah.
this documentary is trying to look past all that,
Yeah.
trying to find something more nuanced.
A deeper understanding.
Yeah, it's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
That's a good way to put it.
We see the warrior,
Mm-hmm.
the brilliant strategist,
Yeah.
but underneath all that,
Here's a guy.
there's a real person
Yeah.
trying to survive in this crazy world.
Right. In a world of constant conflict.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
Yeah.
the documentary doesn't shy away from the bad stuff either.
Oh, good.
Like, you're going to talk about the brutality,
Yeah.
the harsh punishments,
Right.
the fact that he didn't allow anyone to disagree with him.
Important to cover that.
Yeah, they want to be balanced.
Makes sense.
You know, show both the good and the bad.
Which, of course, brings us to, like,
Yeah.
the whole mystery of how he died.
Right, the assassination.
Talk about a dramatic ending.
I know, right?
The documentary is going to dig into all that. Like, the power struggles, the betrayals.
All of it.
That led to his downfall.
It's so interesting that,
Yeah.
like, in his later years,
Mm-hmm.
he got really paranoid
No, really?
and unpredictable.
Wow.
Some historians think it was all the pressure and all the
Oh.
trauma he'd been through.
Makes sense.
Others say
Yeah.
maybe he was struggling with mental illness.
Oh, wow.
It's like a big psychological puzzle
It really is.
that they're trying to solve.
That's so cool.
So we've got Shaka, the warrior,
Right.
the unifier,
Mm-hmm.
the complex leader who ended tragically.
Yeah.
But what about his legacy?
Right. What about that?
How did he shape Southern Africa in the long run?
Well, they're going to bring in some experts.
Okay, cool.
Like historians and military strategists to
Lesson.
give their opinions.
Cool.
We know his military stuff influenced warfare
Yeah.
throughout the whole region. But what about the political and cultural stuff?
Right.
Did his vision of a strong centralized state,
Mm-hmm.
did other kingdoms copy that?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
And like, how did his focus on Zulu culture
Yeah,
affect the region?
right.
It's a complicated legacy, to say the least.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
On the one hand,
Yeah.
he brought unity and stability like no one had seen before.
Right.
But he did it through force.
Then silencing anyone who disagreed with him.
Exactly. And that's what makes studying Shaka so interesting.
I know, right?
We're not just learning about some guy in a history book.
Yeah.
We're dealing with the big questions
Right.
about power and ambition.
You know, what it costs to build a nation.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
how do we balance his brutality
Right.
with the huge impact he had?
Such a good question.
Those are tough questions.
They really are.
And I don't think there are easy answers.
Probably not.
But I'm glad this documentary isn't avoiding them.
Me too.
They're making us think
Yeah.
about the past.
And how it affects us today.
Yeah, exactly. And
But-
this is where the documentary gets really thought-provoking.
Oh, really?
They want to look at Shaka's legacy
Mm-hmm.
through the lens of modern issues.
Oh, wow.
Like, can we learn from his leadership
Mm.
without accepting the violence?
That's tough.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Can we even judge him by today's standards?
Right.
Or do we have to try to understand him?
Based on the time he lived in.
Exactly.
Wow, those are the kinds of questions that
Yeah.
make history come alive.
I know, right?
It's not just dates and battles.
It's about thinking about the past.
And seeing different sides of things.
Yeah. And using what we learned to help us today.
Totally. It's about making connections.
For sure. So we've really gone deep on Shaka Zulu.
Yeah, we have.
From those tough early years, to
Right.
his rise to power,
His crazy military strategies.
all the controversial stuff,
Yeah.
and the fact that he like totally changed Southern Africa.
It's wild how people are still talking about him.
I know, right?
Centuries later.
It's amazing.
And I think this documentary, it's really cool how they're not shying away from the tough stuff.
No, they're not.
The complexity, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
the questions that don't have easy answers.
Yeah. And one thing I'm really excited about
What's that?
is they're going to talk to
Okay.
like actual descendants
Oh, wow.
of people who lived through Shaka's reign.
Really?
Yeah, to hear those stories
Yeah.
passed down through generations.
That's got to be powerful.
Oh, yeah. I think it could totally change how we see him,
Yeah, you're right.
like beyond all the history books and stuff.
It's like a whole different level of understanding.
Exactly. And it reminds us that
Yeah.
behind all the legends,
Mm-hmm.
the military genius,
The larger-than-life figure.
he was a real person
Yeah.
who made choices.
That had real consequences.
Right. For real people.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
as we kind of wrap up here,
Yeah.
I keep coming back to that big question.
That's the one. Yeah.
Who was Shaka Zulu? Really?
right? Was he a good guy?
Was he a bad guy?
Was he a visionary leader?
Who brought everyone together?
Yeah. Or was he just a tyrant?
Who ruled through fear?
It's tempting to want to put him in a box, you know?
Totally label him good or bad.
Yeah.
But that's too simple, isn't it?
Way too simple.
Shaka was both things.
Yeah.
He was brilliant and ruthless,
Mm-hmm.
ambitious and compassionate and cruel.
Yeah, and I think that's what this documentary is trying to show us.
Yeah, like a full picture.
Yeah. They're not giving us easy answers.
Right, just showing us this complicated guy.
Yeah, and asking us to figure out what we think.
That's what good history is all about.
Totally. It's not about memorizing dates.
Right, it's about making us think
Yeah.
and consider different perspectives
Yeah.
and seeing how the past
Yeah.
still affects us today.
So for everyone listening,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with this.
Okay.
Could Shaka's way of uniting people
Mm-hmm.
under a strong leader,
Yeah.
could that ever be ethical today? Or is that just something from the past?
Wow.
It's a tough question,
It really is.
but it's worth thinking about
Absolutely.
as we learn more about Shaka Zulu.
And his complicated legacy.
That's it for our deep dive on Shaka Zulu.
Thanks for listening, everyone.